Okay, so the refueling area is done now, so what we can do is work on the cockpit. Basically what I've done with this one here, I've got it together to the point. Now none of these control surfaces are actually glued in, they're just holding through the holes. But what I have done is put the little, the heel plates, the foot plates that go underneath the rudders, pedals down the front. The rudder pedals are on, obviously we've got the coaming, the various bits, the instrument panel and the bits and pieces like that. Now the big thing is, if we just bring you out here, photos obviously for all of this lot are all on the website and are on the disc as well, and the various bits and pieces. But we got here, I've printed off the photos that I took around the nose area, and obviously you can see lots and lots of things going on in here, and this is what we're going to try and replicate to give this type of detail. So the main points I'm going to pull out, we've obviously got the hydraulic cylinders here which run off of the actual the rudder pedal itself, obviously pushes down, and the lines coming off. Now they're quite distinctive, quite important. So we've got one bar runs down with 3 hoses coming each, and then obviously the ones nearest the windows go off down underneath here, the other ones wrap around the other way, and obviously I presume join up somewhere down the back. So we're going to take care of that. A few little other hoses and wiring bits and pieces that are going to go across, which I'm going to run down the bottom and round and up, which we'll obviously do with lead wire. So you can see it's basically just the different angles. It's quite nice, you can see them in blue, so we'll do those bigger lines in blue. The other thing you can see at the top here, obviously we've got the reflection on the glass here, but up there you can actually see the back of the instrument panel, and you've got the cylinders off of the instruments coming down, and then the cable coming off the back. From this angle here we've got a very big one coming down, and then we've got a shorter one above it, and there's a few more. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put those 2 in, and probably a third one in behind, and then we're just going to randomly run some wiring around there to give that nice effect, and then as I say we can pick out any distinctive wiring that we see in all these bits and pieces. So in a way to sort of prepare for this, what I've actually got here is some rod. Now various different sizes in rod, obviously you know I've just got the random pack here, so it's quite hard to know which one I'm doing, because unfortunately my calipers have given up and they're not working. So you know, roughly I've used these as probably about 2mm tubing, which is going to be for the dials, and then a smaller one of various bits and pieces like that. So if we start obviously at the back of the instrument panel, what I'm going to do is just going to put a line right the way over the entire thing like that, and then I'll start with a slightly smaller one which goes to the inside. It's an idea to use tweezers with this, but if I do this one a bit rough here, you know, we can get one in at the top. If I bring you in and do this next one in close, so we've got one in up there, which obviously as you look at it it's going to be like that, and I think there's the thicker one is going to run to the outside. So if we just get a bit more glue, and then what I can do is we can actually get some wiring in the back here. There we go, so we've got those in like that, and as I say we'll get a third in there, but it will just give us that thing of when we're side on, that you can actually see them through, so by the time we put the wiring in and the bits and pieces as well, we'll be able to see all of those. So we'll just get all those centered up and facing the right direction, which would be a help. So we've got a third in there, and then also what we do down here, we've got these slightly longer cylinders that I've got, and they're going to attach just down the bottom here. We're going to go one each side of it. So if we just run a bit of glue, it's quite handy using the extra thing because it's got the weld action. It sort of grips and bites, and you can sort of maneuver it around afterwards. So if we just use the tweezers just to help us get in here a bit tighter, and then all we'll do, we're going to come in and we're going to just sit him in right like that to give us one. I'll just check the height of it. It does seem to be that the top of it comes up. Where are you? There you go. The bottom of it does seem to come up the top of it does come up to the bottom of the actual rudder pedal itself. So that's what we're going to go aiming for. So we'll just do that one there, and we'll do the same on the other side. And then very carefully with lead wire, what we'll do then, we'll come around and we'll stick these on afterwards. So there we go, that's both of those on like that. Now I'll do the same to the other side and just add some little bits more, and when you come back we'll get the wiring done. Okay, so as you can see I've been doing a little bit of plumbing around the cockpit area, so you see it from all the angles there. So I've got all the cabling and bits and pieces coming out from the instruments themselves. So obviously then hopefully when we get to this type of thing, once we bent all those round when they're totally dry, then hopefully it will give us that nice effect of plumbing and hosing and various bits and pieces in there. So in a minute I'm going to go around and sort of do the other side, and then I'll come back and start bending them round. Now the quickest and easiest way to do that was to do it this way. If you get some super glue, don't have it too thick, you want it quite thin, and what you do, you cut yourself some lengths of your wire. So we've got here, and I'm cutting them to sort of about 2 cm strips in length. Two ways, as I say, get yourself a new cocktail stick with a nice point on the end of it. Okay, and I've got just down here out of sight, down the bottom here, you can see just a little bit of super glue. Then all we do is drop it on the end like that. Come in with your thick wiring. We'll start at the top here. Come in with your thick wiring, and then you can literally slide it in the hole. And then for this one I did 2 extra coming out because it's a big instrument, so we're sort of allowing for power in and out as well. So we just stick those roughly together. Okay, and we can probably hopefully get one and then 2 in there. There we go, they're in there. Then once they're in, just grab a little bit of the extra, your glue again, your extra thin glue, super glue, works really well, and let that go down the end. And then just to lock it in place, squirt some kicker, dry it off, and it will give a nice little lump at the end as well, as if it's been sealed in. And then we shouldn't really do it this quick, but hopefully then you'll be left with your wiring, which you can pull and do as is required. Just like that. There we go. And that's that one in. So we should be able to do the same with all the others. So we'll just work our way around, as I said. Drop of the extra thin super glue I'm using here, put it on, squirt with the kicker, lock it in, move on, and just keep working the way all the way around it until you're done. So I'm going to carry on doing this cabling now, which is quite a long and laborious job, but hopefully it'll be one of those that's really stand out and be well worth putting in the effort. Okay, so we're continuing on with our work. A couple of things we've done here. We've put in exactly the same as we did the other side. If we just zoom you in a little bit. We've put in the other side, which has a couple of boxes, obviously a detailed shot here of that area. Then all we've basically done is just sort of replicated it by putting some wire through, twisting some wire together and done it. So the refueling port is done, and so is the wiring bay on that particular side, done just like that. On the other side, I made up, obviously we've got the battery compartment in, and we were going to have the refueling rig, but obviously speaking to the guys in the know, so this door is never opened, so we've just put it back on and closed it up. Usual thing, all I did with that, put the bay in to sand it into, it's a nice tight fit, put it on, bit of super glue, bit of kicker in from the inside, very coarse sanding down to start with on hard, and then come back and do it soft. And what we'll do, we'll polish that all up a bit later on when we're coming to do seaming and joints, but it's just a quick way of closing that one up. But it did seem a bit of a waste to have it open when in reality apparently it's never opened, because it always refuel off the other side. Moving through, what we've actually started here, as you can see here, we've actually done the plumbing work at the rear. Now what we've done is basically followed the lines that are in there, and we've replaced it with actually some lead wire, which is a nice bendy wire. So all you do, spot a bit of CA glue at the bottom, bend it into shape, and then the top, and then a couple of bits in the middle, and gone round and done all the major wiring and plumbing that's needed. Now there is some that are still there we haven't done, but they're all the lesser ones, the ones that are behind anyway. So by the time we actually come along with the actual the washes and some dry brushing, it'll bring them up to life, and then these big tall ones, the ones that stick out further, will obviously look a lot better because they're going to be out. But that's done just like that. Okay, so how did we do it? Basically, to get something like that, very, very simple. We've got our lead wires, which we've spoken about before, and basically for the really big thick stuff like we've got here, this is 1mm lead wire, and obviously the beauty with it all is, as we said before, you can bend it to any shape it holds. If you're using fused wire, it does tend to sort of, you know, great for the first bit, and then it moves and you strengthen, a bit of a problem. So anyway, a lot easier with the lead wire. And then obviously you've got the 0.5mm thinner stuff for the thinner hoses. So what I did to actually start with, I've got like a 1mm pin vise here. All I've done is literally go along and look for where I need to make holes to run through. So we're looking for the taller pipes and hoses as I go through. So we've got one just down here, which is the really big thick one. So we just go through a little bit and then in from the other side, just to make a hole so it can thread through. Okay, then all we do is just do a couple more on the other side. So we'll do one there and one there. And then if you get it where it sort of bends out the bottom, if you just use a knife just like this, you can then cut it across and to clean the hole, and it will get rid of any debris that's in there. Just like that. And then we're just going to pop a couple up here. Okay, we'll start with a slightly smaller one. So all we're going to do is thread it right the way through. Get it in the hole. There we go, there's one. And when you start it, it's usually quite hard to keep it flowing through, so we just use some tweezers. I'll just bring you in a little bit. You can see, just a touch easier. So we've got that through, and all we'll do, we'll poke it through the next one. Through the next one. And into the blank, so we just pull it a little bit further out. Just going to pull it backwards, and what we do, thinking about it, we're just going to make one finer, small little hole. So it's the lower one. Just in through this bulkhead here. Okay, just clean that back. Just like that. So if we roughly cut this to length, what we can do it backwards if you like. So all we're going to do, thread that right the way through. Then hopefully this will just flick through. Clean out the other end. Let's just and there we go, that's right the way through. So all we'll do is we'll pull it through this way a little bit, straighten at the end. So if we just give it a bit of a pull, that'll straighten it up, then we can sit that in. Drop of glue onto the end part, quick squirt with a kicker. Two things for using kicker. One, it stops you getting a bulge of super glue over it. Secondly, obviously it sets it very, very quick, and then you can usually pull as you're required to get the other part down. Obviously don't pull it too hard, but there you go. As you can see, that's lying there nicely down the length, so we can cut to the inside, take a shave because it's bent, that other one just like that. And that's your first line in, just like that. And all we're going to do is go around and replace all the others. So continuing with the actual detailing, as I say, we've got all these parts done at the rear now, all the hoses, quite happy with all that is. But we've got these open areas here. So on this side you can see I filled them in with some boxes. Now these are things like, for this rear one, it's for the sand filters, a little adjustments here, and working our way up. But the kit itself just has them as open little boxes. So what we've done is I've put in some styrene sheet, cut it to side and put them in. The thing is, they've got these little bulges which come out, which are not exactly realistic by any shape or means. So what I've got is a little chisel just on my knife here. And then all we do, we're just literally scooping them out. Which is quite a straightforward job to do. Just mind your fingers when you're dealing with these things. But we don't want to take them completely out flush, because we do need their height just a little bit, just to help ease them in. So what I've got here is a strip of plastic card which I cut. Very straightforward way of doing it. Just overlaying it over the top, just like that, so we're happy with its size, and then scoring the plastic card. A quick snap it off, and then come in with a very coarse sanding stick and just taking the edges down like so, and just taking the back off just so it sits a little bit more flush. So we're just cutting in the angle, giving it a 45-degree angle on the back, and then hopefully it will, and that was not a bad one. But you can obviously take your time with a bit more fitting as in the other, and then a little bit of extra thin, and just letting that go all the way around and just let it weld over let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then all I'm doing is just giving it a little bit of a push just to get any air bubbles out from underneath, and doing it like that. So what we're going to do is just fill in these other ones, and then what we'll do afterwards, when this is all sprayed and weathered in and looking very nice, what we can actually do is then we'll mask these up, paint them, and give them all the little details of the switches, the bits and pieces, just like that, individually, just before we put it all together. So we'll get those done. Okay, so little bits we've just been getting on with. What we've actually done up here, we've got a photo, obviously in the references, and it shows with these doors down and open at the back. Now we've closed them up, we've put a little bit of a plate in there, and the little rear light is on there because we're going to have it all up and done. There's a lot of plumbing and wiring back there, which really you're not going to be able to see that easy, so it's easier to close the doors up. But if you wanted to, obviously you could open it up and put all the plumbing and wiring in. We'll do a little bit down the back here, but this one here we've done is shut. So that one's now done and dusted and out of the way. These window areas are all now filled in, nicely done, all ready for basically painting up and done. Happy with the way the hoses are all sat in and all done, so they're all okay and they're in. What I've just been working on here, these parts here are the rear steps which are going to go here. And so basically these are going to sit in. Now what actually happens is they have a flat plate on the back that goes in the inside, and obviously you've got edges. Now what I've done, did a quick way of doing this, a little tip with the super glue. So all you do, get yourself a bit of plastic card and cut yourself a small square or rectangle out. Now you want it to be a little bit bigger, and then obviously make sure you have your inside to your outside. Now if you look at the reference photo, it has a little step, a little lip that comes up, and then this fits just to the inside just like that. So it's going to go in there like this. So what we do, I've got a nice big pot of super glue here for this job. We're going to put a nice generous blob down on the inside. I'm just going to run it around everywhere in there. Then all we're going to do is come along with this one here, and we're just going to line it up to how it's going to go. Okay, flip it over so the super glue runs around everywhere on it. Okay, so happy how it is. Then all we're going to do is give it a quick kick, squirt some kicker, just to speed things up. Then whilst we've got it here, obviously you've got this big hole here, so if you get some super glue, nice generous dollop, push it in the end there, squirt with a kicker, and then come back and put another dollop on. What it'll do, hopefully, as it hasn't on that particular one, let's give it another go. It normally, because you've got the kicker there, it speeds up and will set. So we'll just give it a little bit more, third time lucky. And hopefully it'll set in this position. And it'll fill up this gap. Now it's already done the other side because it flows right the way through. So we've filled up the other side now. So instead of just trying to get his finger out without being stuck to it. So we're just going to come in the top. Nice blob at the top, bit of kicker, and it's going to sit and dry like clear glass. If we just bring you in, you can see it's dried there on that end and at the back part there. So we'll give a quick squirt down there, and that's happy. Then all we can do, then you can just pop along with your scissors and just trim this up a little bit, just like that. Let that set just for a few moments to go totally hard, because obviously it dries hard like resin. Let it totally dry off, and then what we can do is just sand this into shape. So we'll just let this dry off a sec. Okay, then taking a coarse sanding stick as we got here, let's just move it out a little bit, then we can just come in and sand down and sand the resin. Sanding stick, and it makes for a very nice, very clean join. But there we go, you see a bit of resin there. By the time this is painted up, we'll all be none the wiser, and then this one will fit into the other side in here just like so, and gives us our working platform, our little step just like that, for obviously the crews to work at. So that's those ones done. Quick, nice easy job to do. Okay, so over here in the spray bay, got the Evolution basically all warmed up. Air pressure is about 35 psi, nice and hard. Now really what this is going to be is somewhat of a just like a base coat, as well as doing colouring as well. So we're going to make quite a nice thick paint. So put a bit of a drop in there, just a couple of drops of thinners to help things spin around a bit. Bit of a mix up with the paint, and as I say, we're spraying at about 35 psi, nice and hard, because we want a bit of a rough finish going on in here. So there we go, we've just done like that, and then what we do, we just flick the old extractor on. So then, okay, all we're going to do, we're going to do this complete front portion of the cockpit absolutely everywhere, because then afterwards we can paint all the wiring and bits and pieces. Now it's all flat black everywhere, so for the minute, that's all we're going to do. We're going to spray up, under, from behind, all the areas. From all the angles really, so you're getting in absolutely everywhere. Then what we can do, we can go around with some dry brushing and bits and pieces afterwards. Those instrument panels just like that. Okay, so that's that one done. Pretty basically done, but it's there. So we just do this rear area between the steps, just like that. So just pop that out of the way. The other thing as well we can do is the forward part of the actual cockpit area. Now what we'll do, we'll use a spring-loaded clamp just to hold this a bit better. So we're going to do all this front part. Then obviously by dry brushing and a wash, we should be able to bring all the details nicely to life. So we do the area between the partitions, and then also we're just going to give a bit of a coat to this foil that we put on, really to act as a primer. So it's going to be quite hard for everything to stick to it. Just like that, job done. So we can leave that to one side as well. Now the other little things we do is just going to do around in the front part of these cockpits. So we just click on the compressor. Really this is twofold, just to use up the paint and also to make sure that if we do miss anywhere, it's not going to be noticeable. So we just do the front part, all of it just like that, and the inside of the glass. There we go. And that one's done. And then same with the other side. And as we just run out of paint, it's just about the right time. So we'll just flip that off. And that off, and then what we'll do, we'll just give this a quick wash through. Okay, the other thing we can do at the moment is just a little bit of pre-shading. So by that, it's just your normal flat black paint. Quite a thick mix. It doesn't have to be too pretty, and all we're doing is picking out these panels, which will just darken them up slightly, just like so. And then obviously we'll pop around these rears. And what this will do is just give us a little bit more of a shadow. To the plumbing and the bits and pieces like that. So obviously it goes on like that. And as you can see, we've done it to the others and the things. So that's quite a nice little thing to do. As I say, this one here, because we've done it black, what we do is just give this another quick coat all over it to make sure it's sticking, because we could do with it sticking on nicely. Let's give it a little bit more, just everywhere to make sure. Now for the interior colour itself, I'm going to use XF54, which is the sort of standard US colour, and because obviously this is an RAF helicopter, it's still going to have the sort of standard US colours inside of it because it is made by Boeing. So what we're going to do is just do a very quick colour change on this. So just tip this through, quick whiz around into the cleaner pot. Then we take our XF54, which is the dark sea grey for Tamiya colours. We'll just blow this out and clean it out. So that's that one done. And again, with this one, we want it to be quite a thick mix, so we don't want to obviously have too much floating around, as in a sort of an oily finish and things like that. So literally it's going to go in like that, drop of thinners, and we've still got some black left on my mixing stick, so that'll just darken it up and give it a bit of a grimy look. It's going to have a dark wash over it anyway, but it'll just give it a bit more of an effect. So that can go down there. We'll just check our flow. Nice high air pressure. Then all we're going to do, if we start on the back here, we can literally just spray it on. Obviously we're trying to coat but not cover the pre-shading totally. We just have the old spray bay on. And then just work our way. And as you can see with the pre-shading, you want it to stand through still. You don't want it to totally disappear, because we want it to look a sort of warm, dirty look. Something like that. So you can see it's coming through quite well on this one. We just give it another coat there, but just working our way through. And there we go. So we get this type of effect. And if your striking is a little heavy, you can obviously just dust it down a little bit more. And we're just going to work our way around that, see it everywhere. Okay, so we're just going to do it on the rear part here as well. So we're still black on the inside, grey on the back.